They took my phone from my hand and told everyone I was doing this for attention. It happened at my father's memorial. A room full of people who had watched me grow up. Relatives, neighbors, family friends. People who hugged me when I walked in and avoided my eyes 10 minutes later. I stood at the front of the room, holding the paper I'd written the night before. Nothing dramatic. Just memories. Just goodbye. Before I could finish the second sentence, my older brother stood up. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look angry. That made it worse. He said I shouldn't be speaking. He said I hadn't been around enough to earn it. He said I was trying to rewrite history. Then he said the line that changed everything. She left when things got hard. People murmured. Not loudly. Just enough. I looked around the room, waiting for someone to say something. Anyone? No one did. My aunt reached for my arm and gently guided me back to my seat, like I was a child who didn't know better. Someone else took the microphone and kept the program moving. And just like that, my own father's memorial continued without me. What they saw was a daughter who looked ashamed, quiet, small. What they didn't know was that I had the messages saved. Every voicemail, every missed call, every unanswered apology. I didn't stand up again. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I sat there and listened to my brother talk about sacrifice, about loyalty, about how hard the last few years had been for him. People nodded. Some even cried. After the service, they hugged him. They thanked him. They told him how strong he was. When they reached me, they didn't ask questions. They gave advice. Families fight. Let it go. He's grieving too. I nodded. I smiled. I said I understood. Because when people think they've already decided who you are, they stop listening. And when they stop listening, they start revealing things they never meant to say out loud. That was the night. Everyone believed his version. It was also the night I stopped trying to correct it. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood how this was going to end. After the memorial, no one called me. Not my brother. Not my aunts. Not the cousins who used to text me on birthdays. The silence felt intentional. Like a decision had been made. And everyone was waiting for me to accept it. A week later, my brother posted a photo online. Just him and my father, smiling. Captioned with words about loyalty and sacrifice. People commented things like, "Your dad would be proud. You carried everything." No one mentioned me. I could have corrected it. I had the screenshots. The messages asking for help. The calls I returned that never went through. But I didn't post anything. Because the moment you defend yourself publicly, you stop being believable. So I let his version settle. At the reading of the will, my name came last. Not because I was forgotten. Because I was reduced. My brother explained it before the lawyer could. He said I had chosen distance. He said my father respected that. The room nodded again. I sat there and listened to my life get summarized by someone who hadn't returned my calls either. The inheritance wasn't large. That wasn't the point. What mattered was how easily everyone accepted that I deserved less. After that, my brother became generous. He offered to handle things for me. Paperwork. Accounts. Anything that felt complicated. He framed it as protection. Like he was doing me a favor. I agreed. Not because I needed him to. But because people are careless. When they think they're in control. He didn't know. I'd been paying the property taxes on my father's house. For 3 years. He didn't know. I had access to the shared account. He was now using freely. He didn't know. I'd seen the withdrawals start before the funeral. Small amounts at first. Then larger ones. Always explained away as expenses. Repairs. Outstanding bills. No receipts. I didn't ask questions. I thanked him instead. That made him comfortable. Family dinners became easier for him. Harder for me. He talked about how exhausted he was. How much responsibility he'd taken on. How some people disappear when things get ugly. People glanced at me. Without saying my name. I stayed quiet. Because when someone builds a story around your absence, they assume you won't notice what they're doing in plain sight. And that's when patterns form. Not mistakes. Patterns. By the time my brother realized, I wasn't reacting the way he expected. He thought it meant I'd given up. He was wrong. I hadn't given up. I had stopped interrupting. Once my brother believed the story was settled, he stopped checking himself. That's what confidence does to people. It makes them careless. He talked freely around me. About stress. About money. About how everything had fallen on his shoulders. He liked being seen as responsible. So when he mentioned selling the old tools from the garage, no one questioned it. When he said the account balance was lower than expected, they nodded. When he said Dad had debts no one knew about, they believed him. Because it fit the story. A grieving son. A distant daughter. A mess left behind. I started organizing things quietly. Not confrontations. Not accusations. Records. Bank statements from before the funeral. Property tax payments that didn't match his explanations. Insurance refunds that never reached the account. Every time I found something, I didn't react. I thanked him for handling it. That made him trust me. He even joked once that I'd always been better at paperwork than emotions. He meant it as an insult. I took it as confirmation. Family gatherings became performances. He spoke. They listened. I sat beside him. Smiling when expected. Silent when ignored. People stopped watching me. That was the moment everything sped up. The shared account was drained in 3 months. Not stolen all at once. Taken carefully. Amounts small enough to justify. Large enough to add up. When the lawyer asked for documentation, my brother provided summaries. Not originals. He didn't think anyone would ask. He didn't think I would. One afternoon, he called me angry. He said the lawyer was asking too many questions. He said it felt like someone didn't trust him. I told him I trusted him. I told him he'd done everything for the family. That calmed him. What I didn't tell him was that I had already sent the originals. Not anonymously. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Because truth doesn't need an announcement. It needs alignment. The first crack came when the lawyer requested a formal review. My brother laughed it off. Said it was unnecessary. He said he had nothing to hide. That's usually when people do. At the next family dinner, My aunt asked a small question. Just one. About a payment she didn't recognize. My brother answered quickly. Too quickly. I didn't correct him. I watched. Because when someone starts lying to people who want to believe them, they have to keep adjusting the story. And adjustments leave fingerprints. By then, I wasn't gathering evidence anymore. I was waiting. The meeting wasn't dramatic. No raised voices. No accusations. Just a long table. A lawyer. And documents laid out carefully. My brother sat confidently at first. Relaxed. Still in control. The lawyer asked him to explain the discrepancies. He smiled. And gave the same explanations he'd practiced. Repairs. Outstanding expenses. Things Dad must have forgotten to mention. The lawyer listened. Without interrupting. Then she slid one page forward. An original bank statement. Not a summary. The room went quiet. My brother leaned in. Confused. He said he'd never seen that page before. The lawyer nodded. And placed another document beside it. Then another. Payment dates that didn't align. Transfers that led nowhere. Signatures that only matched one person. His. He tried to explain again. This time slower. The words didn't land the same. People who had nodded before started looking down at the table. The lawyer asked one final question. Where had the money gone? My brother didn't answer. He couldn't. Because explanations only work when there's room for doubt. There wasn't any left. No one looked at me. Not because I was invisible. But because the story they'd believed had just collapsed on its own. The lawyer explained the next steps calmly. Recovery. Accountability. Legal responsibility. No one argued. After the meeting, my brother didn't speak to me. He left early. That night my phone buzzed. Messages from relatives who hadn't spoken to me in months. Short ones. I didn't know. I'm sorry. We should have asked. I didn't respond right away. Because apologies don't undo months of silence. And understanding that comes late. Still comes late. A week later. My brother moved out of the house. The one he said he was protecting. The one Dad had trusted us both with. The truth didn't ruin the family. It clarified it. Some people stayed distant. Some came back quietly. I didn't chase either. Because I didn't need my name corrected anymore. The documents had done that for me. I didn't win anything dramatic. No speech. No moment of triumph. Just peace. And a quiet certainty. That silence hadn't been weakness. It had been timing. If you stayed with this story until the end. Thank you. Stories like this aren't about revenge. They're about patience. And what happens when truth is allowed to surface on its own. If you want more stories like this, told calmly and honestly, you can subscribe to Echoes of Karma. No noise. No exaggeration. Just stories. Where actions eventually speak for themselves.